Jarrod is calling in from, looks like Phoenix, and he has some questions about the definition of atheism.
Dig it. Let's dig in.
Let's dig it.
All right, Jarrod, you are on the air.
Jarrod, welcome to the show. We are recording, but we're not broadcasting.
Okay, cool.
And I'm getting a little bit of clicking from your line, just so you know.
Is that better?
Keep talking and we'll tell you.
All right, how does that sound? Can you hear me loud and clear? Testing.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So what did you have for us today?
First of all, I wanted to tell you guys an awesome show. I believe I hear Anthony's voice here, don't I?
Yep, you have Anthony Magnabosco on the line.
What's up, Jarrod?
Awesome. Great to talk to you, Anthony.
Good to talk to you.
I just wanted to call in about the definition of atheism. I think you and I are largely in agreement. What would you say the best definition of atheism would be, or the definition that you use?
This is a contentious thing these days.
We might have some.
We might have some differences.
Yeah.
Let me hear your definition.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in short, it's the rejection of the proposition that a God exists, and that's it. I mean, it's basically the proposition is, I believe a God exists, and my answer is, I don't believe you. It doesn't. Atheism itself doesn't take on any other baggage, right? There's nothing else. I mean, you have a lot of atheists who are into woo and crystals and spirit healing and whatever other bullshit that are still legitimately atheists if they don't believe in atheism.
Gotcha.
Right?
The main thing that, in your mind, to be an atheist is the rejection of the claim that there is a God.
Yes.
Okay. What I think, I don't know for sure, but Jarrod, are you getting to the whole lack of a belief or belief that there is no God? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, so when you talk about rejection, are you just saying, like, I don't believe this? Or would you say that, I think that atheism would typically best be defined in terms of theism. So, theism would be a proposition, true or false, the belief that God exists.
It sounds like that's what you were doing.
And I think that atheism would be the affirmatory position, theism is the affirmatory, yes, it does exist. And atheism is no, God does not exist. Which means atheism is actually making a claim about reality, that reality doesn't contain any God.
Okay, actually, I've got to step in there because that's not actually it. Atheism is without a theism, right? So if you wanted to continue on to what other people believe, if you want to ask an atheist what they believe, in The God Delusion, Richard Dawkins puts out a 7-point scale, and there are other scales that I find really useful, but if you were to be on the atheism side of that scale, at the very end of it, the hard atheism would be the assertion that no gods exist, right? If you were listening to our talk with the last caller, we were talking about the value in saying, I don't know, right? I think that the vast majority of the atheists that I've talked to would say, if given concrete evidence that a deity existed and it's irrefutable, we're not going to they're
open.
Yeah, but in the absence of evidence, the best thing to do is say, I don't know, and continue to live your life.
But Jarrod, I think you said something interesting that my ears picked up on, and you said something like, atheists will say that they know atheists will say that there's no God. Did you say that?
I would say that atheists believe there is no God.
They believe there is no God. Right. Yes. Okay. So I think I'm on board with you with that definition. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I'm on board with you on that definition where atheism or an atheist is a person who believes that there's no God.
Yeah, this doesn't mean we believe it to absolute certainty. This doesn't mean we claim it as knowledge.
Right.
I think all of these...
I thought you said something like atheists say that there's no God, and that implies that we're making a knowledge claim. And there's a distinction there. So yes, atheists have a belief that there is no God, or believe that there's no God. Some might even say that they...
they would believe that reality contains no gods.
I think we're starting to get into
I guess
this.
so. I guess I'd be okay with that. You're an atheist. How would you, someone says, okay, Jarrod, what is an atheist? How do you describe it?
Someone who believes gods don't exist.
I'm fine with that.
I'm
Yeah. I have a belief that there are no gods. I'm comfortable saying that. There are many people who say that they lack a belief in a God.
Yeah, that's non-theism.
That's still atheism.
That's non-theism. I mean, a theological non-cognitive lacks a belief, an agnostic, a temporal agnostic, a Huxleyan agnostic. Those are two different positions. I mean, they're all under the umbrella of non-theists. I'm a non-theist because I'm an atheist, but I'm not an atheist because I'm a non-theist.
Yeah. When I hear the word agnostic, I'm starting to more interpret it as undecided. I'm undecided whether I know that there's a God or not.
I mean, Dillahunty gives a perfect example about the jars on the table. I mean, is it an odd number or an even number?
Yeah, the gumballs.
Odd or even would be atheism or theism, and before looking at it or making any judgments, maybe measuring the jar or something like that, you can say, I don't know whether it's odd or even, and that would be kind of the on-the-fence agnostic position, not saying it's odd or even.
Right. Open and undecided, I guess, is probably a good way to equate with agnosticism.
But that would be more of a temporal agnostic, because that's saying more about your epistemic certainty. I would say that, a Huxleyan agnostic would be making a stronger claim than that, saying it's unknowable. There'd be the distinction there as well, but that's getting into the different types of agnostic. I mainly just think that as an atheist, we should be, supporting the burden, that the slight burden we have. I mean, of course, it's not quite as heavy as a burden as theism. That's why I'm an atheist. But I would say that the position atheism is the proposition that gods do not exist. I wouldn't say it's a knowledge claim. I think that knowledge is a pretty
I think it's bordering on it pretty close, though. The way that I like to approach it, and if you go to my Twitter profile, you'll see this, where I like to ask people where they are in terms of their confidence that a God exists.
I think that's great.
From 0 to 100. And I put myself at a 2. I have a very low confidence in my belief that a God exists. So I guess you could argue that I do believe a God exists, but to a 2 degree, to a very low degree of confidence. And maybe these labels can be very confusing. So maybe some numerical scale, like the Dawkins scale, like you mentioned, or this 0 to 100 a scale.
I think the real numbers works good.
Pardon me?
The real numbers works good, like 0 to 100, and like 0 to 1. I would say I'm like 0.999 that the God of theism doesn't exist. But if you're giving me some watered down, epistemologically inaccessible theistic God, I would say I'm at like 0.55. I can't get any information for or against that. Yeah. Just on my intuitions, I would base.
Yeah, I like that.
More one way.
So like a deistic God, maybe you're just a little higher on your confidence in the belief, but the God of the Christian God of the Bible, then maybe even a lower degree of confidence, closer to 0. Is that what you're saying?
Sure, belief's proportion to evidence. The more strong you can say your belief is, the more strong the claim is that theist is making. You can say the stronger belief that I have that it doesn't exist.
Now, that being said, I do still use the agnostic atheist moniker.
Yeah.
Because I understand the difference between knowing and believing and all this stuff.
Absolutely.
But when you start really thinking about what it means to know and knowledge being a subset of belief, that maybe just putting it on a numerical scale, at least for me, seems to be clearer.
See, for me, I
think it's clear that the agnostic atheist label only works if you're using the strong atheist or the proper definition of atheist. There's a lack of belief atheist.
Yeah, have you ever watched Ozymandias Ramses the third or second or something?
Yep, absolutely. And
okay.
Alex Malpass too.
He recently did a video where he took a clip where Matt and I were sitting on Matt's couch talking about this.
Yeah, it's on my screen right now.
You've probably seen it. Yeah, it's a good.
How much?
Yeah. So in fact, on my Twitter profile, I think I even say provisional atheist, largely because of the work that Ozzy has done diving deep into what those labels mean. But listen,
Yeah, I mean, that's
we're beating this thing to death. Most people don't even know what an atheist is. My neighbors moved in once, and they asked what kind of church we go to, and I said, "Well, I'm an atheist," and they said, "Is that like a Scientologist?" They don't even know what these words mean. So, but yes, once you start getting into the community and these labels are important, and then people are kind of divvying up in factions, and then like we're really detailed on labels and what they mean. That's when I think a numerical scale could be helpful. But there's confusion. There's so much confusion around these labels. This topic comes up time and time again.
Well, and you find yourself in these weird conversations where you ask, somebody says, "Oh, I'm not religious, I'm not atheist, I'm agnostic," and they don't have that definition that you have. They have a colloquial sense of what agnosticism is, which is pretty much what most atheists would accept.
They say they're open and they're undecided.
Yeah,
usually. But if you ask somebody say, hey, I'm agnostic, and you can ask them, do you believe in any gods? And they would probably say no.
Yeah.
Which would meet the definition.
Which would answer the atheism question.
Right. Yeah.
I would say that's not true. They don't believe in any gods is different than believing gods don't exist. Just kind of, it's a really small semantic distinction, but people don't really, just the average everyday conversation, they're not really going to get into that much.
Okay. I actually have a question for both of you.
Sure.
So when it comes to that, I find as a thought experiment, it's fantastic. But when it comes to, the rubber hitting the road, if you have a 0.999% chance of, a specific deity being real, you're not going to live your life as if that deity is real, right?
Of course not.
So in action, it's a zero. It's not, if you wanted to put it that way, when we have a choice to wake up every morning and live our lives a specific way, right? Some people live it, a lot, religious people live it assuming that a God exists, and non-religious people live it the other way around. So what's the benefit of
labels
of that? Really, it just feels like it's polluting, it's causing further stratification of the community.
I think that's a good point. We should be looking at the behavior that people have based on the beliefs that they hold, rather than get so wrapped up on labels. Like, how are they voting? What are their views on this particular issue? What do they feel? What are their views on teaching a certain holy book in a public school?
Right. Okay, so
that's why the show's main question, what you believe and why, just kind of dodges that whole semantic distinction. That's great right there.
Well, and definitely, as long as we're kind of on the same page that we can have this discussion, but when it comes down to it, we're in the same boat,
What I think is important is moving people off of these edges of certainty. An atheist they know there's no God, or a theist who knows that there's a God. Those very rigid, I'm not going to even listen to anything to change my mind, and I'm absolutely sure that it's true, and it's this way, and everyone else is wrong. Those are the danger areas. That's where I get concerned when people start expressing absolute certainty. It's refreshing to meet a theist who says they're 80% sure that their God is real.
Yeah, that is refreshing.
And it's refreshing to meet an atheist who says, I guess a God could exist.
It all depends on the definition of the God, but I just think that the activist push for the non-position of atheism is something that kind of annoys me. When people do spend time thinking about their beliefs and justifying them, and people routinely justify them, and then just take a non-position, it just makes atheists look like we're not skeptics and critical thinkers, and we're just kind of, as Ozzy would say, playing hide the ball. Right.
I think I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, we as atheists have an obligation to recognize that we don't hold certainty in these beliefs, and that we really do have a belief that We're holding a belief that
just because we don't hold certainty, we're not still an atheist. We can still be an atheist and not be certain. I mean, I think certainty is just ridiculous in lots of situations. It just says more about how you feel internally, not what's objectively real.
Just FYI, I've been chatting with Ozzy, and him and I and Matt and Blake Junta have been trying to do like a Google Hangout to go over this idea of these labels, and also the belief scale that I use when I'm using street epistemology. Because I noticed Blake using it. He was being interviewed once, and he used this 0 to 100 scale when he was questioning his atheist host. So keep an eye out for that. We might be doing something along those lines.
Yeah, well, for sure. I like Blake. He's a real honest guy. He seems like he's got good intentions.
Yeah, I like him.
Hey, that was pretty much all I had, guys.
Yeah, before you go, how did you hear about calling in? Was it something on Facebook or Twitter, or was this just a random call in?
Yeah, no, I saw your post, Anthony, just a little while ago.
Okay. Great, dude. All right, well, make a comment on there so that I know who you are.
Cool, I sure will.
All right, Jarrod, thanks for dialing in, man.
Taking my call, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. See ya.